Welcome to Truth Uncompromised. I am your host, Rhonda. Join us every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Truth is peace. Truth is justice and freedom to love, live, and be. Music provided by sourcevibrations.com. I am love. I am peace. I am free. I have abundance. I have everything within me. For I was, for I am, for I always be. We are love. We are peace. We are free. We have abundance. We have everything within us. For we are, for we will always be. For Mother Earth is love. For Mother Earth has peace. For Mother Earth is free. For Mother Earth has abundance. For Mother Earth has everything within her. For she was, for she is, for she will always be. And so it is spoken. So it has been written, and it is done.
You have entered into a dimension of truth, where time does not exist and illusions are shattered. The journey of truth is intense. The journey of truth will set you free. Consider this a warning as you enter the dimension of truth uncompromised.
All right, family. Welcome to the Truth Uncompromised show. I am your host, Rhonda, and tonight is December 12th. We have a great show planned for you. We are continuing our series, The Real Pilgrams, The True Story of Immigrants Coming to America, Part 8. So if you did not join us for this series, from the beginning, I would highly recommend you start from the beginning. You can catch the past shows on Blog Talk, and you can also go to YouTube on our Truth Uncompromised page. The two sources of references, two of the main sources, rather, that we're using for this series is, the first one is White Trash, The 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. And the second one is They Were White and They Were Slaves, The Untold History of the Enslavements of Whites in Early America. So we're going to pick back up where we left off last week. Last week, the author went into how different colonies were failing, specifically in the South. So in the Carolinas, which is fascinating information, family, because the Carolinas that we know today, the land was split up. Okay, so Carolina spanned it from what we know today as North Carolina. South Carolina was included. Georgia was also included. And I'm not sure other states that were included. But the Carolina colony that they tried to establish failed miserably the first time around because the squatters, and I'm doing squatters with my quotation marks, you can't see me doing that, but the squatters, who were the white immigrants / Slavs who came over as indentured servants, who had finished up their indentured contracts and were therefore freed, white folks started inhabiting the swamp lands of the Carolinas. Okay, and they were able to squat on that particular land because the indigenous people, number one, they were not inhabiting that land because it was a swamp. And so the Carolinas in general was totally against the setup of colonization, following European statutes and laws and rules. They weren't having it. So meaning the indigenous Pawnee, i.e. brown, black Indians weren't having it, and neither were the white pilgrims or indentured servants. So specifically the white indentured servants, they were calling them squatters, so they wouldn't work the land, as well as they just weren't doing anything at all but sitting around their slums, just smoking and drinking and living in filth. Now, this is according to the English or the European accounts that talked about that early North Carolina colony. Now, interestingly enough, and those that are from the South and specifically the Carolinas, the Georgia area, when you get to the coast, specifically in the Carolinas, they call it low country. A lot of that land was swampy. Okay, so meaning it was just basically mud and plants kind of grown up on it. So they drained, meaning the Europeans, in order to turn that land into agricultural land, they literally drained the swamp and created a landscape for farming to take place on that land. Okay, so just kind of giving you a high-level overview of what we discussed last week. This week we're going to pick back up because I do want to go into the Georgia colony as well. So we're going to pick back up with that. So before I do that, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Sis Sandra and Brother Sean. But before I do that, I forgot to mention last week, shout out to Medicine Man. He did another video last week, a follow-up from his series, The Claims of Thrones. I highly, 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 highly recommend his latest video. As usual, he does excellent work. I have much, much respect for that brother. He is a hell of a researcher. So I highly recommend that you check out his latest video. And if you haven't checked out that series, Claims of Thrones, so Claimes of Thrones, I recommend it. But he's put out a new video to that particular series. And as usual, it is absolutely great work. So again, that's Medicine Man, and shout out to him. All right, so let me bring on my co-host. Let me bring on, this sis get in the queue. Yep, sis is in the queue. So here we go. Let me bring on sis Sandra. Peace and love, sis. How are you?
Peace and love to you, sis. I'm doing pretty well. I'm doing better.
Oh, were you sick last week?
No, I had an accident. I fell and broke my foot.
Oh, no. How are you feeling?
It doesn't hurt as bad.
Okay. I thought maybe you went on vacation because
No,
I know you have been talking about going on vacation.
I was on vacation, all right, laying on my on my backside with a broken foot.
Oh, okay.
I got tabled until I get back around a little bit more.
I understand. Well, good to hear your voice. That's for sure. And I'm gonna have to take your number down. I see your number, and is that your cell number?
No, that's my home.
Oh, okay. So what I'll do, I'll give you my number so you'll have it, and just text me or whatever your cell number. So when I want to check in with you, or you need to check in with me. So, but welcome back, and you make sure you take care of that foot.
Yeah, well, I'm in a splint right now, and I have an appointment coming up to see a surgeon, so I'm not happy.
I understand.
So we'll see what they say, because once you get the cast on, then you know you're progressing.
Yeah. All right, then. Well, welcome back, sis. Let me bring on Brother Sean. So here we go. Peace and love, brother. How are you?
Wholeness and power. I'm well. How about you, Sis Sandra?
I'm doing better, brother. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Thank you for your concern.
Yeah, good deal. Okay, good to hear your voice, Brother Sean.
Likewise.
All right, so we're going to get into go ahead on with the fuckery. So, sis, you have any go ahead on with the fuckery for the family? You know you've been gone a little week, so it's probably built up. So.
I've been trying to watch this ringmaster circus they have of this impeachment, and I just thought to myself, man, they treat him just like a nigga. It's always somebody, just one person say you said it, and you toast. So I just think it's amusing that he's getting a taste of we see justice in this country. Because justice is not justice for us. And they got vendetta out for him. And so, and our women are having a lot of emotions over this instead of facts, They hired this man as the president, which I didn't do anything, and that's the kind of personality they hired. And then now they complain about it. So my sister-in-law said, he did it. And I said, well, I hope he wins, because if he wins, we get out of this mess, because his winning is going to destroy their government. And so there's a time when I hate to say this, the Europeans or the Yamaya is going to have to give it up. They can't run this planet anymore. It's not theirs. They're putting space forces up there to fight the ancestors, and it's like almost the crescendo is about to happen. and you just have to, turn around and just watch the next move of the program. And it's really interesting. I can't complain about it because I can't say it's an effery. I just like to just stand back and watch. And I encourage our people. I encourage all of our people to shut up and watch. But there's so many that wants to be in the public eye. They have to have their little dig at the situation. They need to stop digging.
Right.
Really.
Right. Indeed, sis. Brother Sean. Oh, I'm sorry, sis. Go ahead.
I was just, they have another article for the New Jersey shooting. There was something that
Yeah, go ahead on with that now. Yeah.
And my son and I was talking about it, and I said, now how in the world they did get out there with a black Hebrew Israelite? And my son said, that's a psyops. That's crazy. Because he said the police officer was an Arab or something that made the announcement. I said, oh, yep, it's psyops. And then they found pipe bombs and all that kind of stuff. There was a time when I saw a video of them in, Atlanta or someplace? They were marching as groups of men with honor. And now they got them on the news as murderers. That is the craziest thing I ever heard in my life. But they can't let us.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
They can't let us stand 5 in a group on the corner because they got that law against that. But then they come marching out like our brothers did in this thing, and I said, man, that's nice and beautiful that you did that, but why you gonna do that? But that's what they did, and now they're the targets. So I'm like, uh-oh. So anyway, I just thought that was messy.
Well, interestingly enough, they were already on the FBI terrorist list anyway.
Most of us are.
So they're on the list. The Moors are on the list. Those are the two groups that I do know are on the list. Sovereign citizens. You're identifying as a sovereign citizen. You're on the Alphabet Boys terrorist watch list. So here's what I think. They're just forewarning folks that they're going to really start. They're already locking people up. Let's be clear on that. Let's be clear. Now, what these groups aren't sharing with you is that folks are getting locked the fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, so consider that your warning, whether or not it's a false flag or not. Consider that your warning, be forewarned, and that's why, Brother Sean and I always talk about giving yourself these labels and associating yourself with these particular groups because it's a lot more to it than you think that it is. Okay,
yeah, most of those people are trading them in anyway. I mean, they're front. They're front. They're getting their monies from the government or somewhere to set up their front for our people to fall prey to their junk. Right.
Now, I'm not saying that everybody in those organizations know that. Most of them do not know that. But the origins of those groups, all you have to do is do your research.
Yeah, I saw that origin of that group a long time ago. Yeah, I saw it. Mm-hmm.
Do your research to, get a feel for how these groups were formed, and you're going to see how they're spin-offs from other groups. Right. And not to even say anything is wrong with that, but they're spin-offs from other groups, and they have very, very similar ideology, and their leadership always has a lot of controversy behind them. And I can't speak on the Hebrew Israelites because I have not personally done any research on them, but the other particular groups are shrouded in secret societyism. So meaning the founders of these organizations were versed in secret societies, and it just freaked me out once I took a look back at the groups to see just how even the leaders are dressed in the same regalia as the secret societies. Okay?
Right.
So that's why we keep telling you all, do your research, be careful the labels that you put on yourself. Okay? So, in my humble opinion, that is a warning for these different organizations because they're already getting locked up behind the scenes. They're already getting locked up. Folks coming into court with this paperwork, they're getting locked up. And this ain't nothing that I didn't heard. It's eyewitness account. Folks reaching out to me about their locked upness from messing with these different groups. So thanks for bringing it up, sis. Because I did have it on the list to discuss. So that's perfect. Okay, Brother Sean, did you have any go ahead on with the fuckery for the family?
Yeah. Okay, speaking of Trump, look at what they're doing to him, and he's the president. He signed every goddamn legal paperwork possible. But look how they fucking him.
Yeah, you're right.
So what do you think your paperwork actually does? Also, if you're finding out who you are through their paperwork, don't that mean they know who the fuck you are? No.
My daddy do.
Some people get recognition and benefits, and then their whole perspective is, I got mine, get yours.
Right.
You took the bribe. I mean, by default, if they find it out and recognizing y'all, shouldn't that be recognition of your entire bloodline?
You would think, right?
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is they know who the fuck you are.
Well, my daddy said the FBI have a file on all of us. That was back when, lots of years ago when I was a young girl. He was talking about how Hoover and all those people have already set up dossiers on every last one of us. So that would stand to reason they know who we are. They just hope we don't know who we are.
It don't matter if you know who you are.
I know it. I know.
Because our ancestors knew who they were when they came and did the shit they did.
They told me
right.
at the Social Security office that I had to go to a judge to declare myself an American Indian. That's what they told me.
Yeah, but at UnDrip, they say that people got the right to declare what they want to declare. But
UnDrip,
then you got to file paperwork and go through this, that, or the other to prove who you are. When they saying that you can just say who the fuck you are. See, if they can get you to keep playing the paperwork, then you're still under their control. You're admitting that they have control over you. You're putting together in your mind. Because if you know who you are, and you know that they don't have that power over you that they say with their paper, then that's when you come to the realization that you're a prisoner of war. You're being forcibly made to do so.
Yeah, you got muffled, Brother Sean.
Pardon?
You got muffled.
Oh, okay. I say, well, it stands to reason that they got control over you. You still do the paperwork, but you're supposed to know who you are. If you know who you are, you're not going to fuck with the paperwork because you see that it's all a game to keep your energy and everything focused on whether or not they are your masters. We at war. When you look past the paperwork and all the bullshit and all the hoops that people are jumping through, we prisoners of war. They took shit. And they're not going to give it back because we do paperwork. They're not. But if we keep playing the game, believing the paperwork keeping us humble because we're sitting around waiting for them to respond and give us approval, we at war. What approval do you need to defend yourself? Who or what are you waiting on to defend you when you constantly getting punched in your goddamn eye? But you still waiting around for somebody to save you. Some of y'all actually offer the other eye. Oh, you missed the eye, hit this one. And for what? To hope that one day your paperwork gonna be approved. They gonna give you reparations. Again, look at what they're doing to Trump. And all y'all hating too. Why? Because they hate him? Have you actually paid attention to why they're so upset? And why they said they're going to impeach him, whether it's legal or not? Pay attention to what's going on amongst them. And look at the way that they're treating each other.
Right.
What chance do you think you have in that arena? That arena is the system that y'all keep alive. You don't want to be who you say you are. You want to be recognized by them and given something. That's fuckery. How they gonna give you what they don't own? It's already yours. I mean, since y'all just like asking for shit that's already yours, send me y'all checks and then ask me for a few dollars. I'll get around to it when I get to your paperwork. I mean, why not me? I'm one of y'all. Why y'all doing it for them? Now y'all think I sound crazy, but y'all do it for them. Make sure my kids go to good schools. Make sure I got 24/7 protection. Make sure I can hop on a jet whenever I want to. Y'all do it for them. Y'all bow down to them. Y'all stand in line for hours to get their approval. I can let you stand outside for hours. I promise you I can. I mean, come on, people. I'm done.
All right, indeed. Shout out to the chat room. I think some people jumped out of the chat room. I don't know if y'all having problems onto the line, probably. Shout out to Scotty Saturn, GD Thompson 42, Ali. So shout out to everyone in the chat room. Okay, so here we go. All right, and bear with me, family. I'm literally between computers. The main computer is acting up, so I'm on the backup, trying to get the main computer back up. All right, so here we go. My follow-up, Sis kind of talked about it with the Black Hebrew Israelite stuff, but I know you all heard earlier this week on the news, they talked about a plane carrying 38 people to Antarctica went missing. And so now, when is this article? This is from the Washington Post. It's saying a missing Chilean plane carrying 38 people to Antarctica is presumed crashed. All right, so I guess they released this on December 10th. A rescue team is searching for possible survivors after a Chilean Air Force plane carrying 38 people disappeared on its way to Antarctica on Monday evening and is presumed to have crashed, Chilean officials said Tuesday. The C-130 Hercules took off at 4:55 p.m. local time Monday from the southern city of Punta Arenas, Chile, for what should have been a roughly 3-hour trip to a Chilean base in Antarctica. The plane had enough fuel to stay airborne until shortly after midnight Monday, the Air Force said in a statement Tuesday. But officials have been unable to reach the pilot since losing contact with the flight shortly after 6 p.m. Monday. The pilot did not send emergency signal before the flight went missing, the Air Force said. The flight was headed towards Chile's President Eduardo Montalva Air Base on King George Island and was last seen crossing the Drake Passage, a body of water between South America and Antarctica that can often be treacherous. Also known as the Sea of Hosi, it connects the South Atlantic and South Pacific Oceans. The area where the flight went missing is icy and has extreme temperatures. The military said it is using 4 ships, 13 planes, and 3 satellites to search for the missing passengers. According to a flight manifest that the Chilean Air Force published Tuesday, the plane had 21 passengers and 17 crew members, including members of the military, 2 contractors, and a university student. All right, so before I go on, just so y'all know, anytime they come with these stories, I always look at the numbers that they're giving us, and 38, you add 8 plus 3, that's 11. 11 is manifestation. The plane has C, which represents 3. And then 130, 13 is hidden. So just to give you all an idea that it never misses. Whenever these stories come out, any of those mainstream media stories about some sort of tragedy, you pay close attention to the numbers, like times and all of that jazz that they're giving you. You're always going to see like sacred geometry embedded in it and codes of secret society, what the numbers mean to them. All right. So the flight was headed towards, I said that. Okay. I said that. President Sebastian Pinera canceled a trip to Argentina and tweeted that he was dismayed at the news. He also said Brazil has offered assistance in the search. Defense Minister Alberto Espino told reporters Tuesday that hopes of finding survivors are slim, but he said it would be profoundly wrong to lose heart at this moment when we are doing everything humanly possible and with all of our energy and determination. Chile built its first base on Antarctica in 1947 and established the Chilean Antarctica Institute in 1963, according to the Scientific Committee on Antarctica Research. The Air Force said the group flying Tuesday was traveling to the base to check on key floating pipelines that provide power to the base. So that's the end of the article. Again, this one is out of the Washington Post. It came out December 10th. I'll pause in case Brother Sean or Sis, you want to put something on it. And Brother Sean, you just sent me something.
Yeah, don't you find it kind of interesting that Chile, of all places, involved in the Arctic? Why? I saw that article. I said, what the heck has Chile got to do with the Antarctic? And as you was reading it, it reminds me of beryllium, because I read an article that at the Antarctic, there's two things they said was there. Is a place for the elites to go there and chill, and there also some kind of mineral that will stop metal. Like from weaponry and stuff like that, and they have tried to, they want to get that mineral, something like beryllium, to stop weapons, so they for their enemies. So what is Chile doing up there? And there's another expedition that's up there as well. So they all converging on the Antarctic.
And I find it interesting that, they're seeing a little plane came up missing, this, that, and the third, because you know that you have to have special permission to fly to Antarctica. Now, supposedly, they were going to start doing, and they do a little bit of tourism there, but it's controlled. So meaning they tell you where you can go. And so you can call yourself, if you want to, go on to places that's restricted. It's literally the military there. Your ass will get shot the hell down big time. So, I don't know if that was them doing a scare tactic, because the whole flat earth thing and people talking about the importance of Antarctica, Mount Meru being there, and people saying we want to go there, blah, blah, this, that, and the third. I don't know if they're pulling out a false flag on everyone to try to say, see, that's why we don't let people go there. It's real dangerous. Woo, 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 woo. Who knows? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
Wasn't that a military transport that came up missing, though?
Yeah, that's exactly what it said.
So what I'm thinking is They found what the fuck they was looking for and just couldn't handle it.
And that very well could be true also.
I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense. I mean, they had to say something to all those people's family members.
Oh, that's a good point. Because I was thinking, well, if it happened, why did they, they shouldn't have just said shit. But your point is well taken. If folks' family members on explanations, this, that, and the third, then that's what they came up with.
Mm-hmm. Check out what I sent you on Messenger.
Yeah. So I'm going to go to Chow, I tell you. But the good thing about all of this, with all of these groups, and I know it hurts some folks' feelings, and the information that we're putting out, and it's just not me putting out this information. It's not meant to hurt anyone's feelings or to start beefs with anyone. We're just putting out the truth with these different organizations, and for you to make a decision on whether or not you want to be bothered with these different particular organizations based on your own research, you can make a clear decision. So, Brother Sean sent me African Hebrew Israelites. Here we go, y'all. Where's this from? Oh, My Jewish Learning website. It said African Hebrew Israelites, American Black community finds spiritual home in Negev. African Hebrew Israelites, often referred to as Black Hebrews, are the largest organized group of African American expatriates living anywhere in the world. The African Hebrew Israelites are the followers of Ben Ami ben Israel, who they believe received a vision. Oh, shit, child. Let me take a sip of my goddamn water. It's always a motherfucker receiving some goddamn vision from, oh, child. All right, let me just keep on going. Who they believe received a vision in 1966 in which he was directed to return African American descendants to the ancient Israelites to the promised land and to establish the long-awaited kingdom of God on earth. By 1967, Ben Ami convinced approximately 400 African Americans, largely from Chicago. Let me take a sip of my motherfucking water again. Who else set up some shit in Chicago? I mean, they started elsewhere. Yeah. But, okay. So there you have it, family. But I'm going to keep going. Largely from Chicago to leave America, known as the land of great captivity, and travel to Israel. The first group of returnees arrived in Israel in 1969 after a brief, God damn it, we can't make this motherfucking shit up. You got to be kidding me, Brother Sean. After a brief sojourn in the wilderness of Liberia, you got to be goddamn fucking kidding me. Brother Sean, would you mind if I get my nerves together to tell the family why I am screaming about Liberia?
Go right ahead.
Isn't that the place where they were doing the Europeans, the black nobility Europeans, let's be motherfucking clear, they set up a company to colonize that particular area and was shipping indigenous Negroes, Indians over there Or am I just making this shit up? Wasn't that a part of what they call Negro land? This shit, y'all. Ooh. All right. So, in other words, damn, that main one still ain't working. Okay, so in other words, he didn't receive the motherfucking vision in 1969 for folk to go back to Liberia, but Negro land, they attempted the same shit before his motherfucking vision. And it was financed by different investors who colonized those lands in Africa. So this shit is a con game. But we're going to keep on going with the little article. The movement can be understood in the content of the Great Awakening to historical roots and cultural identity that African Americans underwent in the 1960s. The Hebrew Israelites maintained their return was not just to their ancestral homeland of Israel, which they consider Northeast Africa, but to a way of life that would testify to the power of God. While only approximately 3,000 saints, as they call themselves, reside in Israel, thousands live across the U.S., Caribbean, Europe, and Africa, and identify with the community living according to their doctrinal tenets. Organizing in Israel. On arrival in Israel in 1969, African Hebrew Israelites were given temporary visas and assigned to Dimona, an economically depressed development town in Israel's Negev region. Okay, so I'm gonna stop right there, just for a short minute, just for a short little minute. So you means to tell moi that Israel gave them temporary visas in the motherfucking ghetto?
Yep.
Oh, okay then. The initial welcoming proved short-lived as a change in Israel's law of return less than a year later cast the community into a legal limbo. At first, the members did not have work visas, but were not deported by the government. Right. Beginning in the early 1990s, African Hebrew Israelites were given temporary resident status, and the community members received permanent residency in 2003. The Israeli government now allows African Hebrew Israelites to pursue citizenship of Israel. The first African Hebrew Israelite received Israeli citizenship in 2009, and more Hebrews have become citizens since then. Meanwhile, faced with overcrowded conditions, no access to school or health care, and the constant threat of deportation, the Hebrew Israelites were challenged to develop institutions that address their basic needs. They developed a biblically based system of communal living and sharing called All in Common, which drove the economy. They also founded Beit Sefer Achva Brotherhood School, a community-run school under the auspices of Israel's Minister of Education. 1980, an abandoned absorption center for 1970s era immigrants was given to the community by Jacques Amir, a sympathetic mayor. Renovated by the members, the site provided a brief reprise from massive overcrowding. Later proclaimed the Village of Peace, it is now a destination for hundreds of tourists each week. Community services include a general store, guest house, health spa, dance studio, communal dining area, and sewing center, all staffed and maintained by community members. They produce a line of soy and vegan food products that are marketed throughout Israel and operated a global chain of vegan restaurants in cities such as Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C., St. Louis, and Los Angeles, as well as Ake and Cape Coast, Ghana. Spiritual and social life. Some have mistakenly reported that the African Hebrew Israelites claim to be descendants of the 10 lost tribes. The community actually considers itself the descendants of the tribe of Judah, as they spiritually identified with Judah's role as the gatherer of the other tribes. King David was from the tribe of Judah. The community's vision invokes Israel's prophetic mandate to be a light unto the nation. The Hebrews take this charge seriously, incorporating a respect for what they see as the sacred truth into every aspect of their culture. The Hebrews maintain a firm distinction between religion on the one hand and spirituality on the other. The former is frowned upon and seen as the root of many evils in the world today. The true worship of God is an entire way of life, a continuous action from the meal you eat in the morning to the job you work, wrote Ben Amin and God the Black Man in Truth. It encompasses your every deed and thought pattern. The Holy Council, 12 men known as princes, chaired by Ben Ami, constituted the group's spiritual leadership. 12 ministers oversee the daily affairs and operations of the community. A third tier of governance, crown brothers and sisters, oversee the daily affairs of the adult community. The community's vibrant cultural dress, all bordered with fringes and cords of blue like a tallit, is unmistakable. Polygamy, the practice of having more than one wife at a time, was practiced among Hebrew Israelites until 1990. Some of them still doing it, but okay, I'm going to keep going on. The community defended this practice because it accorded with biblical tradition and also because of the community's unique demographic conditions. Significantly, more women traveled to Israel in the first wave of Aliyah, and the community valued marriage and companionship, even if it meant one man having multiple wives. In addition to keeping the holy days prescribed in the Bible, the Hebrews have incorporated a New World Passover in their calendar, which commemorates their exodus from the United States in 1967. Each May, hundreds of international guests join in 2 full days of feasting, music, and family-orientated fun. Shabbat, the Feast of Weeks observance, feature the annual Dance for Land, featuring an elaborate display of sound and motion celebrating their joy at being back in their ancestral land. The prophetic priesthood, the body of men responsible for administering spiritual needs of the community, also read Psalms to women during pregnancy and labor, counseled couples considering marriage, officiated weddings, conducted Sabbath services, and performed circumcisions on male children. Fasting for all older than 13-year-olds is part of the community's mandatory Sabbath observance and considered part of their holistic approach to health. Health and wellness, it is here in the arena of preventative health that the African Hebrew Israelites have scored perhaps the most impressive success. They have virtually eradicated high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, heart disease, and obesity from their community. Indeed, There have been no deaths in the community attributed to these diseases, which in the U.S. disproportionately impacts African Americans. Members of the community are vegan. Tobacco, drugs, and alcohol beverages, aside from naturally fermented wines, are avoided. Regular exercise 3 times a week is mandatory for all adults, as is a monthly massage. No salt days, sugarless weeks, and live food weeks dot their calendar. According to the community's belief, the choice of relationship, clothing, and music all matters where health is concerned, and every effort is made to create an environment conducive to healing. This consciousness is woven into the lifestyle, resulting in an admire comprehensive health literacy. In 2006, Ghana's Ministry of Health summoned a team from Dimona to assist the development of a health and nutritional program crucial to that West African country. Are a lot of people talking about running back to Ghana now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, I'll keep reading. Working for peace on many fronts. The Hebrews also participated in civic activities of the State of Israel. Since 2004, more than 125 of their youths have served in the Israel Defense Forces. Defending their homeland is viewed as moral obligation, and other members of the community reach out to the neighboring Arab population. By virtue of their experience in overcoming prejudice, the group considers itself uniquely positioned to mediate disputes where ethically and other differences are at the root of social strife. A conflict resolution center, the Dr. Martin Luther King SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Ben Ami Center for a New Humanitarian opened in 2005. Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So they just gonna blend the two, right? They got King up in there who's a Baptist, or am I just not looking at this correctly? King was a Baptist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay then. All right then. Israel's foreign minister considers the community a corpse of goodwill ambassadors. There goes that word ambassadors again.
Mm-hmm.
Came up last week in the book White Trash when they talked about the Morocco ambassadors. Very, very interesting. Anyhow, they are particularly active throughout Africa. Today, the frictions that once characterized the community's relationship with the Israeli government with Ashkenazi ultra-Orthodox parties who denied the community members were Jewish are a distant memory. Times may not have been rosy for the community, but I'm sorry, go ahead.
Look at that word, Ashkenazi.
Nazi. Yep, Nazi. Yep, all day long, Nazi. Times may not have been rosy for the community, but along the way, public praises have poured forth. The U.S. Congressional Human Rights Caucus recognized them as a miracle in the desert. And the foreign minister websites call them a phenomenon in the land of phenomena. Their struggles for acceptance behind them, the African Hebrews continue to look at the challenges ahead, ever onward and upward, says Prince Rakameen, 74, one of the founding pioneers. If you're coasting, you're going downhill. All right, so again, that is from My Jewish Learning. It is African Hebrew Israelites, American Black Community Finds Spiritual Home in Negev. So my question is, thank you for sharing that, Brother Sean. So what the Hebrew Israelites over here waiting for? They folks already got a community set up. So why the fuck they ain't over there? Or am I missing something?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because, not that I know a lot about them, but some that I've talked to, and I actually asked this person point blank, okay, so if we're from over there, when are you going back? And what land will you be sitting on? And the person got mad at me and called me the devil. I'm like, oh, okay then, whatever. I just asked you a simple question. You said that, you're going back over to our homeland. And I asked, okay, well, where's that land at? But I'm the devil. And now come to find out, they already have people that's over there.
It says, check out the next article I just sent you, and as far as for whether or not on the terrorist list.
Okay. Yeah, because I found it interesting in that one we just read that they're like, oh, no, they cool. The U.S. was like, oh, yeah, giving them shout-outs. All right,
they
so
over there.
Yeah, exactly. But over here, they asked on the terrorist watch list. All right, so this one is Black Hebrew Israelite. This is from the ADL.
I like to say.
I'm sorry, go ahead, sis.
You know that Trump is supposed to be signing a bill to make Hebrews or Israelites that are a nationality. So that would include everybody who is a Hebrew. And I don't know if he understands that or not. And he's thinking of the lighter-skinned folks, or is he thinking of all of us folks that have that hair?
You know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So say that again. What you say, Trump card is trying to do. Say that again, sis. I'm sorry.
He's going to sign a bill to make the Israeli Hebrews a nationality.
Child, yeah, he know what he's doing. I'm like Brother Sean, he know.
And it was pending yesterday, and my son said it got signed the day he believes. So
okay,
No,
go ahead, sis. I want you to finish your thought.
One of the things that happened, according to the books that are known, is when they said the lost tribes of Israel, they're talking about the ones that was over there and got ran over here. And you said that in that King James stuff that they got run out of the places in Europe. Now, I always say, and I didn't change my mind, that we come from here, and they went over there. And they set up that place over there. And when those European Neanderthals came out of Africa, then they ran them out of there back over here. So that is what I say. And Genghis Khan is a Mongoloid, part African. Part monkey as well, because Mongoloids are that African, that monkey DNA. And they're out of Africa. That's what you were reading and stuff like that. So the people who think that it started over there are the ones who are over there. But it started over here. And if you look down in Cusco, New Mexico, or Mexico, whatever, they have the places that are represented in the scripts over here. That's why they can't find nothing over there. So that's my position and what I believe is going down. Now, the ones they're saying out of Africa, I know they're Ethiopian. They claim they're Ethiopian Jews. And then the other ones, I don't know if the Sudanese was included in there, but they were airlifted out of Africa because they were starving or something, and they weren't being treated well in Africa. And that's been going on. And the Christian church was responsible for a lot of them being airlifted and taken into Israel. But everybody's saying it's over there. You can find those structures that's listed in the Old Testament over there. They've been trying forever. So that's all I got to say.
Okay, so shout out to Purple Pill and Seven Christopher. So Purple Pill, I knew Purple Pill was going to be on it. Purple Pill breaks down Nazi. Nazi equals N-A, national, Z-I, Zionism. So, yeah, makes sense to me. Makes a lot of sense to me.
And
so,
that's a different...
Exactly.
That's a different set of Jews than the Torah Jews, because the Zionist Jews is all about the land, and they're the ones who got that with the let's see, what was it, Bedford? Was it Bedford agreement in 1937? They went to the UN, and that's how they got that land over there themselves. It was a Bedford. So anyway, that's how they're there. And of course, you have to understand that that there was a sacrifice of the other Torah Jews. I believe it was a sacrifice of the Torah Jews, and the Zionist Jews got the land and did not want the Torah Jews to come there. Because Ben Gurion was not on the Torah Jews' side. He didn't want another Jew there because Hitler had offered to send them out of the land before he slaughtered them. And he really didn't slaughter them, according to what I understand. They died of typhoid, and they had to bury them and burn up the bodies. But Ben Gurion is a Zionist Jew. There was a movement, a political movement, and that's how they got that land over there. The Rockefellers, not Rockefellers, the Rock or something, I forget.
Yeah, one of those groups, yeah.
They're the ones who went and got that land in 1937, deeded to them from the Brits, because Britain captured that land. And the Zionist Jews went over there, and the other ones didn't. Now, this is my straight out, far out, over the top theory. The Jews that are Torah Jews are a mixture of the black German Jews who studied Torah. And this is my crazy theory. And what's his name? Hitler is a genealogist. And he knew who was who. He knew it. So the ones that died were melanated, as well as those that were mixed with the melanin. That's who he put to death, or they say he put to death. And that's where the Pope comes in, Pope John II, with the drug company to give him that fluoride to sedate him. There was even one of the famous melanated singers that was over there. She barely escaped. So I believe that the ones they executed in those concentration camps were the lighter ones that was mixed, the lighter ones, I should say, that was mixed with melanated people that was there in that country at the time. And now that's my far off thing. And so when Hitler did his genetics, he figured out, and he said that America don't even know who they got over there that they captured in their wars over here, because they're the apple of God's eyes. And he had done the genetics on it. Even China and Russia, when Russia accepted that fighter over there, he said he'd rather have a real Hebrew than a fake.
Okay, so I'm going to say that, I'm going to say, and I'm going to say again.
Begin to get the call.
I know
all
what
it
you're
is
going to say.
Classification of you a Jew, you a Hebrew, coming out of a book. I'm not for any of that fuckery. I didn't say it, and that's not to dispel what you're saying. You have the right, you and anyone else that, you know, that's what you all feel. You definitely have a right to it. I'm not for any of that. Because I'm going to say again, it is a spell. And they keep using these classifications to keep the planet in a spell.
His cell phone number is just a few digits off from what Google lists as.
So, you know, that's just my take on it. So let me get to this Black Hebrew Israelite, the second article from the ADL. On December 10th, 2019, a kosher market in Jersey City was attacked by two individuals. The store owner and employee and one customer were killed, as was Detective Joseph Field. There are also reports that the alleged perpetrators may have been members of the Black Hebrew Israelite movement. There are many sects which refer to themselves with variations of the name Black Hebrew Israelites. Some, but not all, are outspoken anti-Semites and racists. It should be emphasized that the extremist and anti-Semitic sects of Black Hebrew Israelites are unrelated to the thousands of Black Jews of Ethiopian origin who are genuine members of Jewish faith and who have been welcomed to Israel in recent years. Anti-Semitic Black Hebrew Israelites assert that white people are agents of Satan, Jews are liars and false worshipers of God, and blacks are the true chosen people and are racially superior to other ethnicities. Today, there are several noteworthy sects of Black Hebrew Israelites. For example, the Sakari Black Hebrew Israelites are a San Diego-based anti-Semitic and racist fringe religious group whose followers believe that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the true descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. They are an offshoot of the larger Black Hebrew Israelites and echo the majority of the movement's core principles, including the belief that white people are agents of Satan, Jews are liars and false worshippers of God, and blacks are the true chosen people. Their leader is Adonis God, or Gadi, who is also known as, I'm not pronouncing that bullshit, whatever that other name he got, or Hebrew Gorilla. While preaching in public, members of this sect may attempt aggressively to engage passersby. Some members have also been involved with violent acts. Another sect of Black Hebrew Israelites is Israel United in Christ, a New York-based group with a national and international presence as well, including in Newark, New Jersey. And Newark had a lot of different groups come out of it also. Drew Ali did a lot of work in Newark, right? Anyway, the leaders of the group is Nathaniel Ray, a.k.a. Bishop Nathaniel Ben Israel. The group's mission is to spread Black Hebrew Israelites ideology and to educate Black individuals of their true place in history. They are committed to spreading the ideology globally and recruiting as many Black individuals as possible. They rely heavily on social media to promote their beliefs, as well as hosting public activities such as marches and Bible readings. They reject Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, specifically calling Jews the bastards that funded the slave trade. They blame Jews and other ethnicities for all social ills plaguing Black individuals and claiming that acceptance of this ideology and God will free Black people. Further, they assert that Jews and white people worship the devil and white people will become their slaves in heaven. In Miami, Florida, in October 2019, Larry Green, a.k.a. Elijah Israel, a self-identified Black Israelite, was charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon after allegedly assaulting 2 people as they were leaving a prayer service at a local synagogue. According to arrest affidavit, Green threatened to kill the victims with a knife, called them fake Jews, and told them to go back to Israel. The case was treated as a hate crime. All right, family. So there you go on that whole thing. So it is what it is. Okay. Here we go. So somebody has a TV on in the background. You're either going to have to turn it, mute it, or put yourself on mute. All right. Here we go. We're going to get into the topic tonight. So we left off, if you're following along with us, on page 55, and we are on the white trash, the 400-year untold history of class in America, Nancy Eisenberg. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Brother Sean.
The reason I picked that article is because it was current. And also it just goes to show that that group has already been painted as a terrorist group.
Mm-hmm.
So any paperwork with that on it, you're a terrorist unless you from over there in Ethiopia or over there recognized.
Yeah, because I'm tripping that they even already over there chilling and stuff. They've been over there since the motherfucking 60s. That's what's tripping me all the way out.
And it took them this long to get the little bit of chill that they got.
Yeah, and they put their ass in the ghetto. And then they had to depend on that same system. Now, I don't know what they was teaching back in the 60s. So in their defense, the people that's over there now from the 60s, I don't know if they was teaching that the Caucasian Jews are the devil, this, that, and the third. We're going to take back over the land. I don't know that. I don't know if they were teaching that. But they took their tail over there and had to still wind up depending on that same group of people that they talking about like a dog over here in the U.S. for a place to stay and all of that. So folks need to wake up and do their research and stop, taking someone else's ideology and brother so-and-so that's been studying it for 79 years or whatever the case may be. You're taking these people's word and taking their doctrine without doing your own research. That's why I'm not taking on none of them identities.
I wonder if this bill being passed will, so it'll probably be on the 2020 census, another category for people to
fuck up out of here. Yeah.
Because if they paid attention to that, this government recognizes them over there. And the fact that they know that the first group of them that was recognized over there was from here, that opens up the doorway to ship them out.
That's what I'm saying.
Actually, they gave dual citizenship for those that are here and there. They have dual citizenship.
We gonna see.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was really surprised he had done that. I saw it out of my eyeball. Whoa.
Ain't no black African Americans got no dual citizenship.
Right. They're not considered black. They wouldn't be considered black in that bill. And black is civilis martus, which is dead. So they just have them as their nationality of, let's see, what was the nationality of Hebrews or Hebrew
Okay, well
Israelites?
that means that Hebrew Israelite wasn't a nationality before this.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't.
Okay, so it's a corporate construct.
Well, most of it is. All of these. American Indian is corporate construct. All of it's corporate construct. Names and titles. What do we call ourselves? We didn't call ourselves that kind of stuff. So all of it's corporate.
That's been the whole point the whole time, but everybody's still trying to call themselves something.
Exactly.
I'm glad you admitted that.
And that's your right if you want to call yourself that.
I read that instead of black African American. Be honest with you, because being black African American is having two continents that you belong to and not here, because the Constitution says that African Americans or anybody of African descent can never be a citizen. That's what it says. And
that's not true, but whites from Africa have dual citizenship.
Yeah, but that's not what they acknowledge.
But I'm just saying, they have dual citizenship as African Americans, though.
If you want to talk about anybody being African American, it's white folks. It's not us.
Exactly. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but we didn't take it on. Just like the Yamanaya, they have taken on and that's the white, that's the European, they have taken on our identity.
I understand all that, but what did you just say about an African never being a citizen?
Well, they can't be a citizen, but they claim they are.
Y'all go ahead. Continue this discussion. I'll be right back.
Yeah, they claim they are because they've taken on our identity. This is our land. But
the quote-unquote whites that have moved here from Africa who had African citizenship have dual citizenship and are considered African American.
No, I'm not talking about the Israelis, because Israel is not considered Africa. Remember,
I didn't say the Israelis. I said African American.
Yeah, they're African American. But who do they call that?
But they're citizens. They have dual citizenship. And
yeah, but they call us that. That's what I'm saying.
But in the context in which you were talking about, African Americans can never be citizens. They weren't talking about them.
No, they weren't talking about them. They're talking about us with this dark skin because they hate this skin. They love this skin, but they has it. They hate who has it, but they love the skin because they pay a fortune for this color. And we were looking at these
basically, the only people who will get, quote-unquote, dual citizenship up under that Hebrew Israelite banner are going to be pale skin.
Exactly. I know, because that's who they consider those people to be. But for people who have credentials, then, a darker skinned people who have birth, DNA and all that kind of stuff, they'll get it. So
our people with DNA can't even get their rights as quote unquote American Indians.
I know.
So what rights are they set up for as Hebrew Israelites?
I cannot even tell you what's going to happen because I have no clue what's going to happen. But since we are the originals to this land, and they know, as she just read in that article, it's considered the people over here are the lost tribe. So therefore, that's
what they said, that we were the lost tribes.
I know that's
exactly. We was no lost tribes. I'm not lost. I'm right where I was.
That's exactly what I said. I ain't contradicted what I said, what they said on that article. They said that they are the lost tribes. That's what they said. So when I don't know what.
No, but they said that they don't consider themselves to be the lost tribe. They said they consider themselves to be the tribe of Judah.
Well, in the vernacular, there is DNA of
The ones
Cherokee.
here consider themselves to be of the lost tribe, not the ones over there. The ones here. The ones over there say that they're.
I get it. But I'm trying to say I don't know what Trump's bill is going to do for the ones that are, quote unquote, the last lost tribe here. Because a lot of people know what they are. But the problem is, what is Trump's thing going to do for them?
What does any paperwork do?
Huh?
What does any paperwork do?
We're going to find out, aren't we?
It put a spell on people, don't it?
You know, because the word nigga.
Paperwork ain't never freed nobody. Paperwork has always been used to enslave people.
Listen, nigga, the word nigga originally, according to the Oxford Dictionary, was to label American Indians. Now they have it as a derogatory title for us to make us mad. But that, according to the Oxford Dictionary, and I saw it, that was for the American Indians. That's what they were called. The name nigga. Just like the word color.
Yeah, I know all about nigga, going through all those histories of the different names. But all of that isn't relevant.
What I'm saying is they are American Indians. And then now they're going to get the tribe, or the Lost Tribes title. And now Trump done signed this bill. What's next? That's all I'm saying.
I already answered that.
No, you haven't, because you don't know yet.
I said, what always comes next after paperwork?
You said what now? Say it again.
What comes after paperwork?
I don't know what's going to come.
Enslavement comes after paperwork.
Nothing really ever happens with the paperwork, but we're going to see. That's what I'm going to stand back and watch. I'm really interested. I'm not going. They treat him bad, so they gonna be pissed off at that bill. But
they ain't gonna be
pissed
off about that bill. They pushing it through.
Yeah.
Well, I'm telling you, in 1982, Reagan adopted the Bible as a Hebrew document. So,
Okay, that's them setting all of this up. They do stuff in layers. That's them setting all of this up so that our people continue to fall for it. We're
going to see what the heck. I'm going to see them rattle the tree and see what falls out of it. I had a rabbi said to me once that you can shake any tree and a Jew's going to fall out of it. So we're going to see.
The system got to be around long enough to keep seeing all that stuff. I mean, all of that stuff, waiting around for stuff to happen, this, that, or the other. I mean, certain things we do have to wait for, but we never have to hesitate when it's time for action.
I don't have no other things to do but sit around and wait and see what this system is going to do. We know it's going to self-destruct, and it's self-destructing by what they're doing to each other right now. I'm going to wait and see. Aren't you going to wait and see? I ain't going nowhere.
I'm not falling off into no paperwork or signing nothing or getting happy because he put the Hebrew Israelite on the census and making that a national. Because Hebrew Israelite has never had anything to do with me.
But, it's all personal preference. And
it's
I'm
not
sure
about personal preference. I'm not a Hebrew Israelite. That's not about personal preference. That's a matter of being.
That's not your personal preference, but there's other people's personal preference.
It's not about it being my personal preference. It's what I'm not.
I know. I got it.
So it's not a preference. It's a fact.
For you.
That's what I'm talking about for me. I'm not telling nobody else who or what they are.
Well,
my stance has always been what I'm not.
I wasn't trying to give the handle to you. I wasn't trying at all. I was just stating what I believe is what's going down as what I've learned. So that's all I was stating. I wasn't trying to give it to you. You done been very clear where you stand on the situation.
Okay, so no, so
But the bottom line it's all paperwork. The very thing that we sit up and talk about and against, that's more paperwork to give more labels. I don't know if people notice that the more stuff that we claim to be, the more stuff that they add. The thing is to leave the fucking system alone.
Well, I think I kind of disagree with you. The more that we claim to be, the more they get out there and start arresting us and putting us on the terrorist list. And this one is a change of acknowledging certain things I think is relevant to those who claim it. But the Black Israelites with this shooting stuff, I don't think that's going to do them any good. Because when you still got the title Black. Because you're already in law.
Okay, so to sum it up, and thank you once again, Purple Pill. My take on it again, and Purple Pill did an excellent job. Hebrews, Christian, Jews, Buddha, Buddhists. You have to. What's the other folks that follow Allah? Y'all know what I'm saying. Muslim, they're all the same cult.
Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. This you just reminded me. He's going to say it's not a religion but a nationality. That's what that bill is going to say. That Judaism is not a religion but a nationality. That's what he's going to say on that bill. You just reminded me.
Right, so again, Hebrews, Christian, Jews, Buddhists, Muslim.
He's never called them religions to be a nationality, and he's going to make a religion a nationality.
Hebrews, Christian, Jews, Buddhists, Muslim, they're all cults.
Yeah.
It's all spells. That's why I will not carry no label on what somebody else done set up and said, Hindu, thank you. Hindu, all of that shit. No. I am my mother and father's child.
Yeah.
I'm not putting that labels on my back because I get it that attached to those labels are certain energies. And when you attach yourself to those labels, you are giving your energy to different entities. You are saying, you are my Lord. I am your subject. And we keep coming on here every week, saying it's all about self. It's all about self. Nothing happens outside of yourself. And every time you go outside of yourself, you're going to mess yourself up. These labels, they're putting this stuff out here to keep people in a spell, for you to constantly look outside of self for a savior. It's all connected. This is a spiritual war, people. So they're going to be with the melanated people because you are the strongest and oldest energy on this planet that sets the tone for the planet. So now I'm not interested in none of that fuck shit. So I'm sorry. Go ahead on. Yes, Purple Pill. It manifests. It absolutely manifests, and I don't want no parts of the fuck shit. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brother Sean.
Coming up, I don't ever remember my parents or grandparents dwelling on a nationality.
They didn't.
Not for lack
it wasn't important.
of a better word.
Yeah,
I've always been told that we had Indian in our family.
They tell you who you are.
and that we were from here. Now, we were being labeled and classified as other things. Because I remember my grandfather telling me about fighting people because they called him black.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't want to be black.
Colored, Negro, all of that stuff was getting the same response in certain circles.
Mm.
The thing is, labels were being forced on our people. They were, quote unquote, told that if you say that you're an Indian, you'd be killed.
And they were.
So, I mean, this whole labeling thing, period, has nothing to do with your direct bloodline. Your bloodline is your tribe. All this nation shit and all the rest of that, that comes with the conglomeration of families who decide to do something together. So
that's right.
This whole thing about nationality and accepting these names, whether they're supposed to be quote unquote Indian names, this, that, or the other, the way that all this shit is put in their documents and everything is all fucked up, which is the way they intended for things to be, because you won't concentrate on you and your bloodline. You're going to concentrate on being in groups, sitting around waiting on somebody to give you something back because you know who you are now. And now all of a sudden they're supposed to be scared because you know who you are. But what are people doing? When they came here with war, fighting and banging with our ancestors, knowing full well who the fuck they were, and them being more powerful than what we are now. And I'm not just talking about they lost to no goddamn pale people, because we was fighting other melanated people.
That's right.
So, I mean, these labels and shit don't mean nothing. These are all corporate terms. The system has to go, period. You don't even know, most people don't even know who their family are. You don't know your own bloodline, but you're going to claim a tribe or a nationality.
And it pisses me off. It pisses me off. That's why I tell people, don't come to me with the fuckery. You can't even go back 5 generations. Not interested in going back to see who your people are. None of that. But you're going to want to try to tell somebody else who the fuck they are. No, go on with that. I'm going to hurt your goddamn feelings. No, I'm not Hebrew. I'm not Jew. I'm not none of that bullshit. I'm my mother and father's child. That's who the fuck I am.
The Bible says, know thyself. It didn't say know the 12 tribes of Israel, know this, know that. It said know thyself. But everybody want to know about all this other stuff. And if there's something that sounds good to you, it sounds like you got something coming in the end from it. Ooh, that's what I am. Ooh, sign me up. Ooh, I want my money.
Right.
I mean, it's just...
Yep. Indeed. All right, family. Okay, we promise you we're going to get into it. So, I'm on page 55, but that was a good discussion for us to have in our defense. I'm on page 55 of White Trash, the 400-Year Untold History of Class in America by Nancy Eisenberg. So last week, I'm just going to read this one quote from page 55, and we're going to go to the new stuff. He mused that, okay, here we go. I'm going to back up a little bit. Byrd left behind a few practical ideas for reforming the godforsaken wilderness he had explored. So he's talking about the Carolinas you all. Only drastic measures would work, replacing lubbers with Swiss, German settlers and draining the swamp of its vile, murky water. And just real quick, I was watching something this weekend, and they said this woman called this man Eliteman, Leetman, and I just cracked up because we had just read that last week in this particular book where they were calling the white, I can't even call them settlers, the white indentured servants, Leetman. Okay, so I just kind of cracked up like, damn, I can't believe they threw that up in there. But anyhow, he mused that colonization would have had a better outcome if male settlers had been encouraged to intermarry with Indian women. Over 2 generations, the Indian stock would have improved as a species of flower or tree mite, dark-skinned, blanched white. Heathen ways dimmed. Here, Byrd was borrowing from the author John Lawson, who wrote in A New Voyage to Carolina that men of lower rank gained an economic advantage by marrying native women who brought the land to the Union. Okay. So again, just wanted to throw that in there for you. And I also want to remind the family that what we see today was the melanated Europeans that came over to the Americas. They were the ones marrying into the indigenous people's families. Okay, so that's how the European names are attached to, quote, quote, indigenous melanated folks. And if people do their research on your bloodline, you would know that. You would see it. And more than likely, I'm not saying this is always the case, but more than likely, it is going to be a male that marries your indigenous relative or ancestors. The men married into the families, okay, for the purpose of the wealth and the land, and then some of them also were marrying in because as they were running away from either indentured servant contracts that were put on them, the indigenous melanated tribes gave them shelter. And so they just started blending in and marrying into the families. So I find it real interesting that in this particular book, the woman was saying that the white Europeans or the indentured servants wanted the same thing. The difference is the indigenous women wasn't fucking with the Caucasian men like that. Okay, so all right. So here we go. We're going to go to bottom of page 55. Shockingly, as it is for us to contemplate, large numbers of early American colonists spent their entire lives in such dingy, nasty conditions. The sordid picture conveyed here is an unavoidable part of American past. Yet there's more. They walked around with open sores visible on their bodies. They had ghastly complexions as a result of poor diets. Many were missing limbs, noses, palates, and teeth. As a traveler named Smith recorded, the ignorant wretched he encountered wore cotton rags and were enveloped in dirt and nastiness. The poor colonial America were not just waste people, not simply a folk to be compared to their old world counterparts. By reproducing their own kind, they were to contemporaneous observers in the process of creating an anomalous new breed of human. A host of travelers in Carolina in the 17th and early 18th century believed that class structure was tied to geography and rooted in the soil. Explorers, amateurs, scientists, and early ethnologists like William Byrd all amused and unabashedly professed that inferior or mismanaged land bred inferior, unforgiving people. John Locke's influence over Carolina was mostly an intellectual character, not so the next southern colony to arise under the direction of an ambitious projector. Rather than a constitutional creation, Georgia was founded. Okay, so now we're getting into Georgia, family. Where am I? And I also, not to get off the subject, but shout out to Brother 832, because last call he talked about the new HBO show. What's the name of it? I should know it. The Watchmen. I highly, highly recommend it. It's I had to wind up breaking down, getting a little HBO streaming subscription just to watch it. That's how good it is. So it's only 3 episodes in. So shout out to 832, and I also just wanted to put that to the family, and I highly recommend it. I want to say that before I got too deep and forgot. All right. So here we go with Georgia. Georgia was founded as a charitable venture designed to uplift poor families and to reform debtors. Get some water. Telling y'all, this shit is based on commerce. So I don't give a damn what y'all say about nationality, nationality, flashionality, any of that. At the end of the day, this Babylonian Roman system is about commerce. Okay, so hold on a second before I go any further. 775, let me open up your line, sweetheart. I'm just seeing you. So here we go. 775, your line is open.
Peace and love, y'all. It's a millennial out here in Nevada.
Hey, good to hear your voice.
Oh, that's your power.
How are you?
All is well. I don't want to. You were supposed to get into Georgia, so that's where my ancestors are from. My great grandfathers. I don't even want to talk anymore. I just want to be quiet, put me back on hold, and come back to me in about 20 minutes.
Hey, sounds good, sis. I'm gonna put you back on mute, and then I'll announce again in about 20 minutes. I'll come back.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to hear this.
Okay, then.
Peace and love.
All right. Here we go. Let's get on Georgia. All right. Trying to get my lighting together, y'all. All my doggone setup is different because I had to bring another computer in. All right. Where the hell was I at? That's what I get for taking a sip of water. All right. So Georgia was founded as a charitable venture designed to uplift poor families and to reform debtors. All right. So remember, The debtors are those indentured servants that came over from Europe with those debt contracts that they had to work off. Okay? All right. One of the most important minds behind it belonged to James Edward Oglethorpe. Oglethorpe was a military adventurer who, with permission of Parliament and colony trustees, traveled to the American colony and helped to plant settlers. Unique among the American settlements, Georgia was not motivated by a desire for profit. Receiving its charter in 1732. There we go again with that charter. I told y'all, all of these, quote, quote, what we call states that were territories that were carved up were charters issued by these European nobility, started under the melanated European nobility, issuing out the authority to conduct business/commerce in the Americas. All right. The southernmost colony was the last to be established prior to the American Revolution. Its purpose was twofold: to carve out a middle ground between the extremes of wealth that took hold in the Carolinas and to serve as a barrier against the Spanish in Florida. As such, it became the site of an unusual experiment. Conservative land policies limited individual settlers to a maximum of 500 acres, thus discouraging the growth of large-scale plantation economy and slave-based oligarchy, such as existing in neighboring South Carolina. North Carolina squatters would not be found here either. Forced settlers coming from England, Scotland, and other parts of Europe were granted 50 acres of land free of charge, plus a home and a garden. Child, I'm going to sip some water on that. I told y'all, go look up some charters. You're going to see some land grants issued to the kings and them, boys and them. All right. So they set them up nice. Sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean.
And our people still waiting for 40 acres and a mule.
Yeah.
And they gave squatters 50 acres, a house, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, what trips me out, though, 50 acres of land free of charge, because that's what grant means, free of charge, plus a home, so they didn't even have to build a motherfucking home on there, and a garden. Okay, then. Distinct from its neighbors to the north, Georgia experimented with a social order that neither exploited the lower classes nor favored the rich. Its founders deliberately sought to convert the territory into a haven for hard-working families. Ain't that a bitch? On somebody else's land. Okay, then. They aimed and paperwork gave these people, our ancestors, shit. Okay, then. Right. They aimed to do something completely unprecedented, to build a free labor colony. According to Francis Moore, who visited the settlement in its second year of operation, two particular customs stood out. Both alcohol, child, and I even highlighted this, so I had already read this, but whoo, child, this shit. I tell you. Two particular customs stood out. Both alcohol and dark-skinned people were prohibited. No slavery is allowed, nor Negroes, Moore wrote, as a sanctuary for free white people. Georgia would not permit slaves, for slaves starved the poor laborer. Free labor encouraged poor white men in sober cultivation and steeled them in the event they had to defend the land from outside aggression. It also promised to cure settlers of the most deadly of English disease, idleness. Though it operated with support from Parliament and was overseen by a board of 20 trustees, Georgia remained in theory a charitable enterprise. The trustees sought to inoculate the spirit of benevolence as expressed in the colony's motto. And they're giving us Latin, nor sibi se ellis, not for themselves, but for others. Ain't that a bitch? But all of this on some shit they done took from the indigenous people. Beyond the work of the trustees. So notice, trustees was over this shit. So meaning the trustee was managing the land. All right. Oglethorpe shaped the day-to-day operations of the colony, having brought over the first group of 114 English settlers, Moses-like, in 1732-33. A trustee, Oglethorpe never held the office of governor, nor did he even purchase land to enrich himself. Though a highly educated member of parliament, he traveled without a servant and lived simply, having fought as an officer until Prince Eugene of Savoy in the Austro-Turkish War of 1716-18. He understood military discipline. This was how he conditioned to do the right thing by observing good leaders. He shared food with those who were ill or deprived, visiting a Scottish community north of Savannah. He refused a soft bed and slept outside on the hard ground with the men. More than any of the colonial founder, Oglethorpe made himself one of the people promoting collective effort. As a free labor buffer zone between English and Spanish territory, Georgia's circumferences were unique. In 1742, Oglethorpe led a military expedition against Spanish St. Augustine, a campaign his English neighbors to the north had balked at funding. He marveled at how the South Carolinians deluded themselves in believing they were safe, burdens as they were with a large slave population, stupid security, he called it. Savannah's physical layout exhibited all the elements of a military camp, and recruits were put through military drills even before they landed in America. Male orphans were taught to hold a musket as soon as they were physically able. One young believer in the colony, 16-year-old Philip Pignice, wrote to his mother in 1735 that a man may live here upon his own improvements if he is industrious. In his grand plan, Oglethorpe wanted a colony of orderly citizen soldiers. He subscribed to the classical agrarian idea that virtue was acquired by cultivating the soil and achieving self-sufficiency. Productive, stable, healthy farming families were meant to anchor the colonies. As he wrote in 1732, women provided habits of cleanliness and wholesome food and remained on hand to nurse the sick. Unlike others before him, Oglethorpe felt the disadvantage could be reclaimed if they were given a fair chance. All right. So, in other words, and I told you all when they were setting this stuff up, and as the white indentured servants were here, and then as the other quote, quote, settlers came over that were Caucasian or white, they wanted their people to be on the come up. So that's basically what Oglethorpe was doing. He didn't want quote, quote, Caucasian people that came over as indentured servants to keep getting in that cycle of poverty and really not doing shit. So he was setting up the come up for his people. So notice that he was against, quote, quote, slavery, because that meant it took away from his particular people, his Caucasian folks, being able to do the come up. That's just like, it wasn't Benjamin Franklin. Who did I say that said they didn't want no more Africans because everywhere they looked, it was all tawny.
That was Benjamin Franklin.
Okay, it was him. Okay, yeah. So this is furthermore giving more proof that all of those quote, quote, founding fathers, number one, they were put in those positions by either directly by the black nobility. I highly doubt that. Some of them came over as indentured servants themselves. And as we get through this, you're going to see they motherfucking ass came over here as indentured servants and then started their particular come up. So Benjamin Franklin stated he didn't want them to import no African slaves because he like everywhere he turned around, it ain't nothing but tawny black folk. Okay, so this is how the quote, quote, white folks was coming up. All right, so far more radical. I'm sorry, go ahead, Brother Sean.
Sis Cheryl sent me an article. Trump signs executive order to define Judaism as a race ethnicity. President Trump signed an executive order on Wednesday to virtually define Judaism as a race or national origin, not just a religion under the Civil Rights Act. The big picture. The order is meant to address anti-Jewish bias in universities. It also expands acts of anti-Semitism to include anti-Israel statements. Both measures have been spearheaded by Kenneth Marcus, head of the Department of Education Office of Civil Rights, the New York Times notes. And further on, it even goes to say something about that shooting that we just talked about. So that has nothing to do with Hebrew Israelites at all, period. It's Judaism. And those over there, they call themselves the Black Hebrew Israelites, saying that they are of the tribe of Judah. They would fit into that Judaism.
Mm-hmm. They would.
They wouldn't do nothing for these Hebrew Israelites. So that term is getting no recognition.
Which would make sense if they, because if they have them on a terrorist list, that would kind of contradict. But not to say that they don't contradict themselves, but that makes more sense. That makes sense. All right. Okay, so about the wife, this, that, and the third. Okay, I'm trying to get back to where I left out. For more radical was his calculation that a working wife and eldest son could replace the labor of indentured servants and slaves. Okay, so I'm going to read that again. Far more radical was his calculations that a working wife and eldest son could replace the labor of indentured servants and slaves. He claimed that a wife and one son equaled the labor value of an adult male. He was clearly not fond of the practice of indenture, considering it the same as making slaves for years. While Georgia's trustees did not prohibit the use of white servants, Oglethorpe made sure their tenures were limited. Oddly, it turned out that the colonists best suited to the Georgia experiment were not English, but Swiss, German, French, Huguenot, and Scottish Highlander, all of whom seemed prepared for lives of hardship, arriving as a whole community of farming families. Slavery, however, could not be kept apart from the future projections in Georgia. After allowing South Carolina to send over slaves to fell trees and clear the land for the town of Savannah, Oglethorpe came to regret the decision. He made a brief trip to Charlestown and returned to discover that in the interim, the white settlers had grown impatient of labor and discipline. Some had sold good food for rum punch. With drunkenness came disease, and so Oglethorpe wrote, the Negroes who sawed for us and encouraged white idleness were sent back. Many contemporaries connected slavery to English idleness. I'm going to read that again. Many contemporaries connected slavery to English idleness. William Byrd weighed in on the ban against slavery in Georgia in a letter to the Georgia trustees. He saw how slavery had sparked discontent among poor whites in Virginia who routinely refused to dirty their hands with labor of any kind, preferring to steal or starve rather than to work in the field. Slavery ruined the industry of our white people, he confessed, for they saw a rank of poor creatures below them and detest the thought of work out of perverse pride, lest they might look like slaves. A North Carolina proprietor, John Collecton, observed in Barbados that poor whites were called white slaves by black slaves. It struck him that the same contempt for white field hands prevailed in southern colonies in North America. Okay, so she threw a lot in there. If you've been following us on the Black Nobility series, some of that you should be able to sort out when they talk about Barbados and all of the other Caribbean, what they're calling the Caribbean islands, which are really still a part of the Americas. We discovered in that series that what they are calling slavery today, meaning folks coming from Africa, that was a very, very small portion of people, because you had the indigenous people to the land that was being shipped back and forth from the Caribbean to the mainland or the Americas to do these labor contracts, or if they were prisoners of war and they renamed them slaves. And then in addition to that, you had the melanated Europeans coming over as well, and specifically out of Jamaica, they were saying that island is riddled with the descendants of the melanated Europeans. So just to kind of give you some content. So the folks over in Barbados, either they were indigenous to the land over in the Americas, or they came over from Europe, or Barbados was just their native home, was looking at the white folks as the slaves. Okay? Because let's use logic here, people. If you are a farmer, if you're coming from a different land, you have to learn how to work that land. You have to learn what crops are going to grow in that particular soil. So how the fuck they gonna convince me, they not gonna convince me personally, that Africans, they brought millions and millions of African slaves over here to work America's land? No, that shit don't fly with me. Wouldn't it be that the indigenous folks of the land were already here and were the ones teaching the indentured servant how to work the land, how to grow different things in the land? Okay. All right. So it says a fair number of Georgians were less high-minded and envious of their South Carolina neighbors. As soon as slavery ban, it was not a part of the original charter, was adopted in Georgia, petitions were sent to the trustees seeking permission to purchase slaves. Oglethorpe raged a war of words with pro-slavery settlers whom he called malcontents. At the height of the controversy in 1739, he argued that African slavery should never be introduced into his colony because it was against the core principle of the trustee to relieve the distress. Instead of offering a sanctuary for honest laborers, Georgia would become an oppressive regime promoting the misery of thousands in Africa by permitting a free people to be sold into perpetual slavery. Okay, so, even this author is thousands of Africans. I'm still trying to find where these millions of Africans supposedly landed over here. All right. He had written similarly about English sailors back in 1728. Strange though it might. I'm sorry, sis. What you say?
You know your very last sentence. It says free people as slaves. Did you pay attention to that?
Let me see. Yes, I'm going to read it again. Thank you for that, sis. So it says, instead of offering a sanctuary for honest laborers, Georgia would become an oppressive regime, promoting the misery of thousands in Africa by permitting a free people, sure did, as sis, she put the shit in quotes. So thank you for bringing it back up. A free people to be sold into perpetual slavery. Okay, I'm confused. Because if I was captured in Africa or sold in Africa to be a slave, how the fuck I'm a free person that was put into perpetual slavery? Very good catch, sis. So isn't that not contradictory to the whole out of Africa theory? All right. He had written similarly about English sailors back in 1728. Strange though it might seem to us, Oglethorpe's argument against slavery was drawn from his understanding of the abuse sailors faced as a distinct class. In the 18th century, seamen were imagined as a people naturally bred for a life at sea, whose very constitution was amenable to a hard life in the British Navy. In his tract protesting the abuse of sailors, the more enlightened Oglethorpe rejected claims that men were born to such an exploitative station. For him, seamen literally function as slaves, deprived of the liberty granted to free-born Britons. As poor men, they were dragged off the street by press gangs, thrown into prison ships, and sold into the Navy. Poorly fed, grossly underpaid, and treated as captives. Now, isn't that interesting? You see how she did that? She said that they were basically dragged and sold, treated like slaves, treated as captives, rather. They were brutalized class of laborers in every way coerced, right? So even this classification of slaves, indentured servants, all of that shit was basically labor at the end of the day, because they were bringing a system of commerce, the Romanistic Babylonian commerce system, to the shores. Okay, so let me pause. I see Brother 832 in the queue. Let me get to him. Damn, okay, Purple Pill, you dropping it. Jamaica, there is no such location known as Jamaica, no such island. Who called them Jamaicans? Who called them Moors? Who called them niggas? Hey, I can't argue with you on that, Purple Pill. Okay, so let me bring on Brother 832. Brother 832, your line is open.
Brother! Sandra! My sisters from other vistas! United States of America down! Sean! My brother from another mother sitting on Mount Olympus throwing them black lightning bolts down tonight.
Indeed, bro.
You were in a talkative mood tonight, huh? That Hebrew Israelite stepped on the corn. You know, last week I gave you an extended TV review of The Watchmen.
Yeah, I watched
you
it
are
too.
now getting back down onto our Aboriginal origins. Since you did did you watch the first from the beginning, or did you?
I'm all the way. Baby, I'm all the way caught up. I went on and paid for the little subscription and everything. I just watched the third episode yesterday. I'm thoroughly caught up. I was sitting there waiting for the next episode. It was everything you said it would be.
Okay, so now a little bit of context from Chief Alonzo Langley. Remember, that's the forensic genealogist who has about 13 generations uninterrupted on both sides of his mother and father without a single African to be found. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As he said, the Carolinas came out of Virginia. Georgia came out of the Carolinas.
That's right.
Alabama came out of Georgia. Okay. So now, when we're discussing all of these as an origin story, by the way, that's what The Watchmen is. It is a comic book series or a graphic novel for some. All of them have an origin story, right? All these superhero comic fiction origin story. Now, the origin story, you said this before. I think last week you pointed out the Virginia Company. The Virginia Company. Before it was pronounced the Virginia Colony. What our problem is, we continue to have a discussion out of context and then do not repeat the timeline. And just for a quick back up on 1606, King James I of England, 6th of Scotland, Stuart clan, did a fact-finding mission in 1606 to the quote-unquote New World. How is it new if you already know of it?
Right.
How is it new if it's known? How
right.
do you discover something that's already there, which you must have known to guard. But I digress. 1607 initiates the charter for his namesake, Jamestown. Now, from 1492, because for people who still do not understand, the oldest quote-unquote city in America is St. Augustine. What was the date that I think you just spoke on that. But if I'm not mistaken, it's like 1512 or something like that. I forgot exactly. Mm-hmm. St. Augustine in Florida. Florida, according to Chief Elwyn Gillum, Chief Warhorse, went all the way to Texas.
Yeah,
and she said one night her ancestors went to sleep in Florida and woke up where? In New Orleans.
Louisiana. Yep, in New Orleans. Yep.
Okay, now, just using these two chiefs, Alonzo Langley, Elwyn Gillum, one has 13 generations uninterrupted of his nationality, as Sanders pointed out, because Hebrew Israelite is not a nationality. The 12 tribes of Israel can be considered a nation by bloodline, not geographic boundaries, right? There is no state of Israel, or as you like to say, Rhonda, is not real.
Real, yep.
Nowhere in the Scripture, Old or New Testament, is there a state of Israel. There is only Israel, Jacob, whose name was changed by Yahweh and became the father of the 12 tribes of Israel. So, it's just like simple factual things like that have to enter into our conversation when we have these things going forward. Now, in some of these bogus black and white cowboy movies, as you may remember, Rhonda, there's been some references where they told these Mongoloid, Caucasoid, hybrid $5 frauds that they were the lost tribes of Israel. Did they not?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these same people, as he's already said, and Sean was very accurate, Ashkenazi, Khazarian, Jew hordes, because that's what they are, and hordes are marauding wanderers with no home, right? Yep. That is the reason why in 1947 they were given the Palestinians land.
Yep.
And then called themselves Zionists.
Yep.
Now, where is the city of Zion in Scripture?
And I don't F with the Bible like that,
I'm
so I can come in.
I'm with Cassandra, the biblical scholar. Zion is supposed to be the city of King David, right? Now, Jerusalem was one that was...
That is correct. That is correct.
Now,
and his temple
if
is
I'm not mistaken, please correct me about my brother Horace Butler and why the rocks are crying out. Could you please tell me about that, my sister? Correct me.
Yeah, it's in Cusco, Mexico, New Mexico, whatever. It's in South America or Central America.
I
they have the emphasis.
It's called Cusco in Peru.
Peru or whatever. It is in, you can see it. You can see it. It's a big, huge, humongous structure. You can't miss it.
Okay, so again, what we are being told in contemporary language, primarily English. Oh, and by the way, Rhonda, if you haven't seen Dane's latest video, it was posted today, called What Languages Spoke Before English?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to listen to it.
But as Horace Butler said, and the reason why I would like to keep referencing Horace, he has compiled their scholarship. He didn't go study this, dig this up, create anthropological, archaeological trails. He compiled their documentation. And their documentation is pointing towards South America. Nowhere can any of the place that they call, again, they they call Israel holds any of the things that are biblical references. So when we continue to allow colonizing foreign invaders to dictate who we are, because that's what's in question here. We are being dictated to, misidentified, categorized, marginalized, and then, as you have just explained in tonight's discussion in the chapter, we are now slaves.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a people becomes enslaved. You are not a slave.
That's right.
There is a difference.
That's right. That's right.
Did you come across yet? I hadn't heard because I kind of came in late. Remember I asked you when we first started discussing this book about the word absquatulate. Have you come across that yet?
No, not yet. But now I'm going to make sure I mention it.
The root of it is squatter.
Well, I did. I did. I just didn't remember that was the name, that specific name. But yes, I got to the squatter part. But go ahead. Go ahead, brother.
Squatter, cracker, waste people. You know, all these things she put, and I'm probably sure they're in the, what do you call that, the bibliography or the reference, probably the back of the book, where she would give you the definition of these words. They had what was called a cracker dictionary.
Right.
Okay. The infamous character that she referred to when I was listening to her, some of her video presentations, I want to say, I think it was Davy Crockett,
right,
who pronounced himself as the greatest squatter that ever existed. And you know what squatting is, right? Most women do when they don't like to have to go to nature to perform in nature, right? So, look, you do know what squatting is, right? Okay. Now, here's the man who said, go ahead.
Texas is where he came in with his crap with the Alamo. So,
Right. You're talking about the mythology of the Alamo with Crockett, Travis, all these. And by the way, many of these people were Tennesseans. They were to Bill Travis, Sam Houston, Davy Crockett, as you're talking to someone who's sitting in H-Town. Okay? Yeah. All these transplanted cracker squatting, and you know what the legal term of squatting is. That's being on someone else's land illegally, right?
Yep.
Yep.
See, even as they lie, they tell us the truth.
Yep, they tell the truth.
Don't bother to decode it.
Exactly.
I mean, our Aboriginal ancestors said the white man speak with forked tongue. What animal has a forked tongue?
A snake.
The snake. Okay, now, back to your Benjamin Franklin memo of 1751. That's what you were referencing. He professed the tawny, dark, melanated people went from Scandinavia. That's what it's called today. Sweden is what? Scandinavia. Russia is what? Scandinavia. Finland is what? Scandinavia. And then he in 1751 said, there's too many niggas over there.
Right.
Exactly what
pretty much. That's what he said.
And Germany too.
But he wasn't talking about Africa.
No, he
sure
wasn't.
Those weren't African nations. Germans, in particular, he supposedly despised in that memo. But do you know Franklin wanted German to be the national language of the colony? Did you know that? Did you know he wanted the turkey to be? He wanted the turkey to be the national bird, not the eagle.
Right.
Yeah, because she discussed that in the book on how the turkey became so important. I'm like, yeah, all this shit is bullshit. But yeah, you right. You're right, brother.
But let me give you the reason why I say the United States of America, because this is again Benjamin Franklin in the 1770s, just prior to the Revolution. We talked about this briefly about "Don't Tread on Me." You may have seen some of that popping up recently another symbolic flag being embraced by the white supremacist movement and the alt-right. Originally, there was, like the figure 8 or an infinity sign. A snake was chopped into 13 pieces, and Benjamin Franklin used that as a symbolic rallying cry. Underneath that symbolic snake in 13 segments was join or die. You may or may not remember that. It may come back to you from your historical record and your high school history lesson. But it was the rallying cry for the 13 colors. Now, if these 13 segments of the snake join together, you now have created the symbol of the rattler in the flag, don't tread on me. And where is the rattler symbolically? From what state? From what territory, Sandra?
It's
what nation?
West.
The Seminole? The Seminole Nation. FAMU mascot is the rattler.
Yep, sure is.
And the Marines got it.
Say what, Sean?
I say, and the Marines use that. That don't tread on me with the rattler snake.
Yeah, it has been adopted because it was on the colonial ships in the naval forces. That's where it's called. You might want to Google this, Ron. It's called the Gadsden, Gadsen, the Gadsden flag. And if I'm not mistaken, there is a Gadsden, Georgia, and I know there's a Gadsden, Alabama.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came up. Gadsden to Atlanta, Georgia, and the Gadsden flag came up. Yep. It's the snake. It's the snake on the flag. Don't tread on me. But yeah, go ahead, brother.
The only reason that I am pointing this out is to, again, it is not a matter of what we think of these individuals. Their character is what it is. Do you care whether it's a garter snake, a black mamba, or a rattler? Do you want to find out whether it has venom or not? Or are you going to avoid the snake? Now, we have let them invade our house, even when they were separated in the colonies. And as you said, they were granted a charter that has no authority. Where is the authority?
Right.
Everything that exists here is a fraud. And I'll wrap up with this. One simple fact is fraud has no statute of limitation. And for a fraud to succeed, it is with the unaware victim's participation. But at the moment of awareness, the fraud reverts all the way back to the first incident. And in the case of this particular fraud, under the Queen, I've told you this before, in 2010, the Queen, who represents Canada, acknowledged and respected supposedly the original treaty with the Iroquois Confederacy in 1610. Now, that confederacy was barely 5 or 6 of our aboriginal tribal nations out of how many thousands at the time.
Exactly.
You cannot, as 5 or 6, speak for thousands, can you?
Nope, you can't.
And the other thousands were then defrauded by a treaty that was even abrogated by these criminals.
Right.
And in parting, there is at least 600 plus treaties, according to J. Winter Nightwolf, one of these Mongoloid Caucasoid hybrids. You may have seen him in an interview with Louis Farrakhan.
Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Of them have been broken by these criminals, and I yield.
All right, Brother 832, peace and love. Thank you so much. Great to hear your voice. Thank you again for putting me up on Watchmen. And I'm glad that you brought up squatters, real quick, Brother Sean sent me the definition of apostolate. I'm going to go over that, but before I do, I can't make this stuff up, y'all, to show you how energy works. Now, we just started talking about the squatters and all of that last week. I'm sitting in the business meeting Monday. So we were talking about this particular group owning this application, and then somebody else was like, they don't own it. You know, our particular group was the one that put the application out, and they just so happened to come in and take it over. And so then this other guy goes, oh, so they're squatting? And so I just was kind of chuckling. And so this other particular gentleman, he's from the South, and, you know, I'm from the South, and he knows I'm from the South. He said, Rhonda, you know what squatting is? And I just bust up laughing. I said, yeah, I do know what squatting is. So anyhow, here goes postulate. Attested since the 1830s in American English, a jocular mock Latin word, blend of abscond plus squat plus perambulate, as ab, mean away from, as in abscond, plus squat plus ulate, as in permeate properly, 8. Hence meaning get up from a squat and depart quickly. The middle portion was perhaps influenced by frequentive and dialect term squatty, depart. Compare contemporary squataddy. As a verb, it's saying third person simple present, squatulate, present participle. That don't make no damn sense. I don't even know why they put that shit in there. All right, let me get to the second definition real quick. Squatulate, remove yourself from my seat. A command to someone residing in your spot. Bitch, a squatulate, you're in my seat. Go squat over there. Okay, so that was the Urban Dictionary version of it. Other thing is, and bear with me, family, and shout out to Sis Cheryl. She's just giving me information too. From the New York Evening Post, May 18, 1830, page 2, confusion, worse, confounded. The Augusta Carrier contained a specimen of a cracker dictionary, which makes us acquainted with some very curious terms in use among Southern Cockneys. At the head of the list, we find the following words: whoa, bodaciously, catawampsly, contraption. The definition in some instances conveyed to us of the North a not very clear idea of the meaning. Ram squatted, when squattled, for instance, is said to mean rolled up Salt River. Okay, so damn, y'all, it's literally a cracker dictionary. Y'all, I can't. Okay, so thanks, Sis Cheryl. And so just real quick before I get back to the material, those that are out of Georgia, hopefully now when you hear that name Oglethorpe, because Georgia has the Oglethorpe University. I know somebody that got their little degree from there. That's the only reason I remembered it. When I was reading them, I'm like, wait a minute, oh, hell to the no. That's that university in Atlanta. So now you know the origins of Oglethorpe, who carries the namesake of that university, what was his purpose, what he was all about. Okay, so let me get back on the Georgia stuff because I want my millennial to have her say. All right, so we got to the sailor part. According to Georgians who petitioned for slaves, Negroes were bred up for hard labor in the same way as sailors. Africans would survive in damp, noxious swamps as well as in sweltering heat. They were cheap to feed and clothe. A meager subsistence diet of water, corn, and potatoes were thought adequate to keep them alive and active. One outfit and a single pair of shoes would last an entire year. White indentured servants were fundamentally different. They demanded English dress for every season. They expected meat, bread, and beer on the table, and if denied this rich diet, felt languid and feeble and would refuse to work. If forced to labor as hard as African slaves through the grueling summer months, or so the petitioners claimed, white servants would run away from Georgia if escaping a charnel house. Sorry, y'all, I gotta move all of my sticky notes. If escaping a charnel house, a repository for rotting corpse. Oh, all right, well, damn. Pro-slavery Georgians were not above accusing Oglethorpe of running a prison colony. Oglethorpe was unmoved by their demands, just as he had earlier called press gangs little tyrants with great sticks when they forcibly turned poor men into sailors. He now charged that the Georgians who fled to South Carolina preferred whipping Negroes to regular work. Oglethorpe pointed to those settlers who were not afraid of labor, who knew how to subsist comfortably without clamoring for slaves. They were the Scottish, Highlanders, and German settlers who had petitioned the trustees to keep the slavery out of the colony. Oglethorpe felt that these folks were hardier and their predisposition to work was superior to that of Englishmen. But the truth lay in an ability to work collectively, a desire to understand and appreciate the demands in subsistence farming, a commitment to long-term survival in a sparsely settled colony. Many English settlers were unwilling to work hard because they lacked any background in farming. Okay, so let me pause there. Because, see, this is where the fuck shit come into play. So now, they didn't admit it, the English didn't know how to farm. So they going to try to convince me that they brought slaves from Africa to farm and they don't know the land. Get the fuck out of here with that. The folks that were already here who are prisoners of war, and shout out to, I know who said that. I'm sorry, it's been a while. Shout out to somebody in the chat room for saying that it's about prisoners of war. G.D. Thompson 42. It's prisoners of war, not slavery. It was the defeated families or tribes that they relabeled with the slavery term. In order to survive, themselves went into contracts to farm the land. Okay? And that continued for a long time, up until the 60s, until they really started stripping the melanated farmers away from their land through debt. And Martin Luther King Jr. and what some believe got him, quote, quote, killed was when he started speaking on the poor melanated farmers in the South and how they were teaching the white farmers how to farm, and in the process, the U.S. government was giving land away to these universities, to these white farmers, and the melanated farmers were going into debt and losing their land. Okay, so they can get the fuck on out of here with that African slavery stuff when somebody had to teach folks how to farm the land. All right, so, all right, and where are we? Many English settlers were unwilling to work hard because they lacked any background in farming. Apothecaries, cheesemongers, tinkers, wig makers, and weaves abounded. There were too few who could cultivate the soil. Patrick Telfer, who drafted one of the petitions in support of slaveholding, refused to cultivate a single acre of land he had been granted. So they came up over here, was basically given the indigenous people's land, because although they were granted that land, they still had to cultivate or farm the land to produce commodities to pay taxes back to those European nations. So they motherfucking asses didn't even want to do that. Number one, they didn't have the skill sets to do it. Number two, they had no desire to do it. Okay? All right. So even when they was giving shit for free, they didn't want to do it. So I'm going to just real quick just kind of remind melanated folks, this going to hurt some motherfucking feelings. I don't give a damn. It is what it is, because melanated people who have family, that land has been passed down from generation to generation, and I see this a lot in the South, where they just didn't want to deal with the land anymore. So they came up north to work, and basically a lot of that land was either abandoned, or the people that were left on the land, meaning the other relatives, are still holding on to it as best that they can. But my point being, and I understand why a lot went up north, because of as the land kept being taken away and debt kept being piled on, it was really a hard life. Okay, but my point being, we have gotten so far away from being close to the land that we sound just like these immigrants who came over here and was like, oh, I'm not going to do that. What you talking about? Now, I know how to do some motherfucking weed. What is you talking about? Gardening? Cultivate? No, I'm not in that. Now, if you want a weed, you want some fly-ass shoes, or a jacket, or some pants, I can do that for you. So that hit me when I read that. Well, I was like, well, damn. We, as, indigenous folks kind of went through the same thing. Now, the good part about it now, that pendulum is swinging back, and folks are going back to, melanated people are going back to farming, which is a good thing. So, okay, before I go on, those of you in the chat, if you want to keep joining us, you have 4 minutes before we go into overtime. You're going to have to dial in to 929-477-3858, 929-477-3858. You have about 4 minutes, and then you won't be able to hear the show any longer. So if you want to continue with us, you'll have to dial in. If not, thank you all as usual. Shout out to GD Thompson 42, Purple Peel, Elise Lane, and then we had Scotty Saturn on here as well. So shout out to all of you. As usual, you're dropping some jewels in the chat room, and it's truly appreciated. All right, so here we go, y'all. All right, so they wasn't feeling all of that. They weren't trying to cultivate the soil. Patrick Telfer, who drafted one of the petitions in support of slaveholding, refused to cultivate a single acre of the land he had been granted. We should make clear that Oglethorpe was not a modern egalitarian. He did not imagine his colony as a multi-racial community, nor did he surmount common prejudice with respect to Africans. He permitted there to be a small number of Indian slaves in the colony. I'm going to sip some water. You notice what she just said, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to read that again. He did not imagine his colony as a multi-racial community, nor did he surmount common prejudice with respect to Africans. He permitted there to be a small number of Indian slaves in the colony. All right, so they're making a distinction between the quote Africans and the Indians. His plan centered on class. He restricted slavery principally because he believed it would shift the balance of class power in Georgia and starve the poor white laborers. So as we told you all, now Oglethorpe, and when Benjamin Franklin did his little letter saying, do not send them African, no, you ain't finna send no African slaves over here, shit. It ain't many of us white people over here. Everywhere I look, there's some tawny black folks. And he went into naming all of the nations, including the Americas. He named Germany, France. He went down the fucking list, including the Americas. So these Oglethorpe and the founding white fathers, they were for the come up for their people. And that's the system that continues to this day. But no, they didn't have that type of power. They did not come into power until the early 1900s, and they really gained traction after the Civil War. All right. In the larger scheme of things, his reform philosophy recognized that weak and desperate men could be led to choose a path that dictated against their own interests. A man might sell his land for a glass of rum. Debt and idleness were always a temptation. Despite his good intentions, the colony failed to eliminate all class divisions. In addition to the 50 acres allotted to charity cases, settlers who paid their own way might be granted as many as 500 acres. They were expected to employ between 4 and 10 servants, but 500 acres was the maximum limit for freeholders. The trustee wanted settlers to occupy the land, not to speculate in land. Child, this stuff is a mess. Sorry, I got to move more my stickies. absentee landholders were not welcome. Georgia instituted a policy of keeping the land tailor-made, which meant that land descended to the eldest male child. Okay, so there you all go with the fuckery, with that whole thing of men holding the land, because we just last week told you all that they were bringing them motherfucking stinking asses over here trying to wrestle the land from the women. So either the widowers who had inherited land and the indigenous women. All right. So Georgia put it into effect that the men was holding the land, and it got passed down to the sons. Okay. So again, that's for all of you melanated Negroes who think that the men had ownership and have the right to own land. I told you all that that is a Babylonian patriarch practice. That's some European bullshit or Roman bullshit.
Hey, sis.
Right? Yeah, Brother Sean, go ahead.
As you see, if they had to pass a law for that, obviously it didn't exist.
Exactly.
And once again, that's something being done with paperwork. Paperwork has never done nothing but stripped us of everything, including who we are, because we believe in the paperwork. Just like we believe in Jesus and believe in this and that. But they admit it. That's admitting that there was a matriarchal system in place before all of that.
Absolutely. Yep. Now this is Georgia. Yep. This is Georgia instituted a policy keeping the land tail male, which meant that the land descended to the eldest male child. And I've been telling you Negroes for years that this was a matriarch rule for the purpose not to dominate men and all of that bullshit, just by the divine nature that you're on a feminine entity. Okay, so that's why women held the land. All right, so this feudal rule bound men to their families. The tail male provision protected heirs whose poor fathers might otherwise feel pressure to sell their land. Many settlers disliked the practice. Hard-working families worried about the fate of their unmarried daughters who might be left with nothing. Okay, now I'm going to take a sip of water. I want y'all to get this shit straight. So again, they are admitting that they put the power of the land into the hand of the men and pretty much left the women hung out to dry, because again, we were a matriarch society. The land got passed down through family on the woman's side. So even if she was married, it don't matter. If she passed away and the husband was living and all of that, no fucks are given. It either went to her daughter, she didn't have no daughters and she had sons. No, it went to a niece or somebody else. All right. One such complaint came from Reverend Dumont, a leader of French Protestants interested in migrating to Georgia. What would happen to widows too old to marry or beget children, he asked, and how could daughters survive, especially those unfit for marriage, either by sickness or evil constructions of their body? Okay, so I'm going to say again, because I want everyone to get my stance and my position on the whole matriarch society and why it was set up the way it was. It is a spiritual thing, okay? Because a woman and her children should always have a place to live. Point blank and simple. All right. And especially it was set up like that from a nature perspective, so she wouldn't have to depend on a man to provide, because then it's, well, whatever I say, which is what we have under the patriarch rule, and why the shit don't work, and it'll never work, but folks keep trying to think that it is going to work when the Romanistic system keeps showing you that it doesn't work, because every civilization that the motherfucker set up collapsed. But yet the indigenous folks across the planet, across Mama Earth, just not the Americas, live thousands, more than likely millions. I'm being generous with the thousands, with a matriarch rule. But shit didn't start collapsing until the patriarch system started getting put in place. All right. Dumont's question went to the core of Oglethorpe's and the trustees' philosophy. Young widows and daughters were seen as breeders of the next generation of free white laborers. Georgia's policy was to nurture the natural process of propagation, as Oglethorpe declared in one of his promotional tracts. His grand plan was to ensure that English and other Protestants would quickly outnumber the French and Spanish in North America. The war against the rival Catholic colony powers was, at length, a battle of numbers. Georgia had to have enough free white men to field its armies, and it had to benefit from a reproductive advantage, winning the demographic war as well. So I'm going to read that again because I want you all to get it. Now, how the hell my battery run out? It said I had 2 more hours left. Ain't this a fee? I'm going to have to switch family. Oh, hold on a second. Let me switch out this headset. Okay. Can you all hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool.
Loud and clear.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Sorry, let me mute this other line. Okay. So, Georgia. Yeah, I'm still echoing. Hold on. Okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I can. Okay. All right.
I heard an echo of me, no? I heard my echo.
Oh, okay. Georgia had to have enough free white men to field its army, and it had to benefit from a reproductive advantage winning the demographic war as well. Okay. All right, can you all still hear me?
About 3 extra times.
Okay, I know, and I'm saying that because
I make a way too.
I have like two computers going. One is shutting down